Hi, and welcome back to Reconnected, your home for everything strategy, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I'm Tshego Musiani, lead strategist here at Reconnected Africa. Today, I'm going to continue a series where I offer some strategic insights on different industries in Africa for those entrepreneurs and investors interested in 2025. In this video, I'll be breaking down the do's and don'ts of the African logistics industry. So let's get into it. Let's start with the don'ts. Don't number one. Don't ignore the Continental Free Trade Area. So the what's it called? The Continental Free Trade Area, yes, is a game changer for African trade. For the first time in history, it is unlocking a market of over 1.4 billion people to be able to trade intercontinentally. But many businesses are still not leveraging it. I think it's because so much of our traditional existing systems is so country specific and country based because of the outgoing regulations. So if you really want to get ahead in the logistics industry, you need to offer solutions of integration. If you have an existing business in the logistics industry, definitely start creating integration strategies. A great way to take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is to invest more in cross-border logistics strategies. Understand tariff exemptions, harmonize regulations, key trade hubs, understand the difference in product regulations from country to country. Even just offering existing businesses that information and that guidance will allow you a way to enter the logistics industry and be seen as a service provider with authority and become a well-trusted voice in the space. Don't number two. Don't underestimate the power of regional partnerships. Logistics is not a solo game, and it is also not the smartest industry to have a approach of creating obstruction. The logistics industry is notoriously highly competitive. Whether you're moving goods by road, rail, sea, or air, local partnerships can make or break your success. And it could also just keep you safe. The African logistics industry is known to, let's just say, use unique tactics to protect their financial and business interests. Yep, that's what we're going to say because I'm not trying to get sued. Make friends first. Make yourself someone of value to the big power players or the existing players, as many of them as you can, before you try and assert dominance in the industry. I think a lot of foreign investors and some entrepreneurs are fed an unrealistic vision of the African logistics company because they look at the big international players like DHL and all these other logistics companies that are in Africa. But even they themselves utilize local partnerships in order to gradually grow and expand in the region. So do a lot of research on their expansion strategies. Don't assume that they have all the answers. African markets are hyper local, and insider knowledge is the biggest asset you could possibly have. But those assets can only really be accumulated through generations of work. Don't number three. Don't ignore infrastructure bottlenecks. Yes, Africa's logistics industry has huge potential. But also the challenges are huge because logistics is like tied like this to infrastructure. And infrastructure is a huge problem in Africa. Infrastructure construction projects are rampant with corruption, constantly being delayed. It is becoming a large issue. So a lot of the people in the private logistics industry are starting to invest more in private infrastructure projects in order to basically just sustain the way of business. Because With our poor roads, like there's so many potholes that it causes damage to vehicles. There's congested ports, and even the inconsistent or very expensive cost of an electricity supply to a warehouse. It is in the best interest of the logistics industry to start looking into infrastructure solutions to protect your own assets. Don't assume that government projects will or can fix everything overnight. If you are seen as a smart, strategic thinker in the industry that can propose a product or service that helps businesses deal with these bottlenecks a bit more smoother and get through these issues hopefully a bit more quicker, then you will definitely be seen as an authority figure and dominate the industry quite quickly, because that is the biggest literal issue facing the existing operators in the industry today. Another piece of advice that I'm going to give you about maneuvering infrastructure bottlenecks is, before you come to Africa, understand the trade routes, okay? So for example, we have something called the Cape to Cairo Road, which goes from Cape Town in South Africa all the way up to Cairo in Egypt. And it is known as like the main logistics route, and all other logistics routes kind of go off of there. So understand those routes and understand how much space has to be covered with such little infrastructure. This will allow you to better plan how you enter the market, but also how you can help the infrastructure development. Another thing you should look at, the air and harbor routes. Funny enough, when President Trump threatened South Africa to remove us from AGOA, our former Minister of International Relations had an iconic response to remind him that without South Africa's infrastructure, AGOA can't go on, because a lot of the infrastructure of ports, of both air and sea, is centralized through South Africa and Southern African countries. So even if you want to fly your goods to other parts of Africa, understand how the air routes work. As it stands, most international flights have to go through OR Tambo, and most freights and large deliveries onto the continent will likely go through a South African port of entry. So definitely understand how that creates a bottleneck in logistics. It will help you better maneuver and plan your routes, and also help you better identify the needed services and gaps in the market. Okay, so now on to the do's. Do number one, do invest in tech and digital solutions. Basically, the African logistics industry still has ample room for technological innovations. One of the biggest talking points for my clients in the logistics industry is what tech solutions are available and what opportunities are still there. Recently, we worked with a drone delivery company based in Singapore. They are looking at other regions that might need these services. Drone delivery would solve a huge problem, which is that Africa is big and flat, okay? We don't have a lot of highways and roads. We don't have a lot of skyscrapers. We don't have a lot of cities. Drone delivery for certain products would be hyper helpful for people in the more rural areas who have to wait 3 weeks, sometimes even over a month, to get their e-commerce products delivered to their houses. So we help that company actually be able to see the fruitful opportunities in the African industry and start pursuing the necessary licenses to be able to test the product in certain regions of the continent. Another more simpler solution that gained popularity in Africa a few years ago was an app called Waze. It basically became a direct competitor to Google Maps because it had just much more efficient AI-driven route optimization tools. It became so popular amongst Uber, Bolt, and truck drivers to avoid traffic, congestion, and potholes on the roads. So there is so many ways that people are open to adopting tech and tech-driven solutions that literally may not exist in Africa yet, So I would really advise you, if you are interested in the logistics industry, to maybe start before the logistics themselves, but offering these tech-driven solutions to companies for faster adoption and relationship building. Do number two. Do adopt sustainable logistics practices. With climate change being a reality, that means that the cost of production is rising due largely to environmental changes. Some of the smartest people in the industry right now are people who are offering creative solutions with changing regulations and environmental reality in mind. Countries like Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria, with the very large logistics industry there, is already trying to think of ways to create a greener logistics supply chain. And they also lead to innovation. For instance, South Africa is known for having very good refrigeration trucks. And a lot of scientists in the logistics industry have actually been winning international awards for coming up with more green solution for refrigeration trucks. Refrigeration trucks transport things like fresh produce, medical supplies, and all those things. So I think a lot of people think that these solutions are boring, but creating innovative and green solutions is also creating sustainability and long-term viability for your business and your service. Do number three. Do look into logistics financing. A huge thing holding back the African logistics industry in terms of diversity, competition, and innovation is that a lot of people with great ideas cannot access the credit and the funding required to open a logistics company. It is so expensive with the cost of, trucks or planes, labor, petrol, electricity. It is so expensive to run a logistics company. A smart way for you to enter in a way that gives you great influence is investing in smaller existing logistics companies. Helping them grow and innovate and create a competitive threat to the big dogs in the industry will also allow you to learn more and attract the best talent in the industry. The logistics industry is also desperate for financial products like loans, grants, investments, venture capitalism, angel investors. So definitely consider that if you are either in the financial market or in the logistics market, how you can bring these two worlds together, specifically in Africa, where it's very hard and frankly almost impossible for a lot of these entrepreneurs to access governmental funding. Okay, that is all the advice that I'll be giving you guys in this video. We at Reconnected Africa are a strategy consultancy that specializes in strategy and implementation plans tailor-made to help entrepreneurs and investors best position themselves for success in Africa today. So definitely reach out and let us know how we can help you.